Okay, everybody ready? You good?
Is Josie on?
Yep, Jersey's on.
I am ready.
Hi, Josie.
Hi.
Okay. Finance committee meeting will start 9. We'll make it 9:01 to make it official. Presence is Dr. D, Mr. Gilbert, MJ, Irma, Eric Kosis, Jen, Cindy Brown, myself, and Janine. And it's all mostly about the budget. So we're gonna turn it over to Eric, of course.
Okay, thank you.
It's all yours, Eric.
Thank you for everybody showing up today.
And, I forgot to say Josie.
Just we have two people from the public.
2 people from the.
Okay. Most of this, what we're gonna be talking about is with the agenda is this piece right here of the budget. There's a couple things on the agenda. Maybe we'll just go through real quick right now. We have the treasurer's report. We'll have the general fund bills, the cafeteria bills. There's no capital project bills this month, and we'll have the budget transfers on there. Then we have 2 things for next year placements. You'll see in my presentation, they'll be on this. It's for extended school year for Delphi and their program next year, the amount they increase for that. And then the paper consortium, we approved that with the IU. And I think that's it right now. And I'm gonna apologize, when you get your information tonight for the agenda, the bill registers will not be there. My person's been sick the last 2 days. She should be in tomorrow, so I'll have to you first thing when she gets in the morning, the bill registers and the budget transfer as well.
There were some budget things under other categories that would impact the budget too.
What's that?
Well, under personnel and under,
Oh, we're totally gonna get into that.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
yeah, okay,
we're-
because there's more than just under finance.
Exactly, we're gonna go to the budget thing.
Yeah,
and we're-
those are the ones that I have more
Yeah.
of a concern about.
Absolutely,
Okay, thank
yeah,
you.
We're gonna talk.
Okay,
And
thank you.
the personnel pieces, I would refer to those in exec session because I'm gonna talk about individuals.
Yeah, that and also under policy,
Right.
the MOUs.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll go here, I have a presentation. Mess this up, Rachel.
Is Gary on with us?
Yeah, it's fine. I think we're good, like, informational, just
No, always, no, we sure don't need an attorney for that.
No, no,
Yeah,
she's.
yeah. See past. I know you have to see.
I probably will stand up. Okay, this is what I'll be presenting. This is the draft right now. We're gonna go through today, and there could be changes for Monday, but we'll be presenting this on Monday night then.
I just want to know if that's your quote or if you stole that from somebody.
I stole that, but it's fun to believe it.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
It's.
I'm so glad.
We're gonna go through the legal part here. Our budget timeline based on the May 20th, 2000 primary. We had to have a resolution or a preliminary budget adopted by February 18th. We passed the resolution on November 11th that we would not go over the index and tax increase. That was 4%, which should have been like 3.4 mils. And we knew at that point that we were not going to go over that, so that's why we passed the resolution. So the time codes through the school code is preliminary adoption in May, final in June. May 19th is the preliminary on Monday, and then we had to move to the 4th Monday in June because we had to have a 30-day grace period, at least so the public can inspect it. That's why 4th Monday in June, it's June 23rd, 2025.
And Eric, that 3.4 mils is the index, and that's about 180,000 per meal. Was that-
About 181,000 per million.
Do you know approximately what that would be on our?
We're gonna get to it.
Gotcha.
Great job with that.
Sorry.
And listen, I'm gonna take my time and slow it down because I know I'm a fast talker. But ask questions as we go along, please. Okay, please. That's what this is all about. Let's get all the questions out today. Okay, so what I've done here is in the blue is our proposed budget. looking at last year's budget and the last 2-year actual. And to note, the 2023-24, we did have a positive surplus of $27,000, but we also transferred that $600,000 to the capital projects for our match for the baseball complex. So remember how we had to do a $600,000 match? It's not part of our fund balance now. We had the excess transferred over that year. So our fund balance numbers did not have to go down by that. So it was a good year for the 23-24. And right now in 24-25, that's our budget right now. I'm going to show you where we're going to probably project at the end at. And this is where we are for 25-26. I know it is shocking right now. We're about 1.3 million revenues to expenditures, but this is worst case scenario, okay? And it has everything in it. We're going to go through that right after this. Like I said, that's our estimated deficit I just showed you there. But we have contingency of 260,000 built in there. Last year we had 300,000. But there's 260,000 of contingency for any special ed costs we're unaware of, any unknown things that we don't know. Hopefully not use it, but it's there. We have E-rate money, that's $88,357. I budget the full amount. We get 80% back from E-rate for internet services and our category 2 purchases, which you did there. Budgeted right now full. So we can take it off the deficit is what I want to say. And then we have a one-time cost, that's the curriculum. Remember, we're doing 2 years of curriculum in 1 year. That's not going to happen again. So that's a $216,000 budget item this year. It's only usually $116,000. So really our overall operating loss, if you take out those little extras, we're about $885,000 short. Okay. So it is, and I'm going to show you where we were last year. I have the next slide, but I'm projecting for 24-25. You know, we had the $600,000 loss. I'll go to the next slide. I think we're going to be okay and be able to take our $250,000 match for the ERU grants and still be able to have that. And I'll show you why we're going to be able to do that again. So here's where we were last year. That's the number there. After we had our contingency and E-rate back, we were going to be at a loss of about 226,000. We have revenues, and we have 474,000 worth of additional budgeted revenues. And the breakdown on those, we get the $150,000 special ed contingency. We applied for it again and got it. Don't budget that because we don't know if we're going to get it every year. We got $150,000 that's coming at the end of May. We got $162,028 from cyber that we didn't have in the budget last year because we passed the budget. Those numbers weren't out there. That's the good news. The bad news is they took it away from this year. The third thing is about $34,101 more in basic ed and special ed funding. Remember, again, we passed the budget. With the lower numbers, it came in a little bit higher, 34,000, which isn't that much. And then interest income is about 128,000 over budget. We were able to keep the rates. Back then, we thought the rates were going to drop with the cuts, but the rates have stayed. We're getting CDs still in the 4%. We're maximizing that. The plug-in's been over 4%, almost 5%. So we have $128,000 more than we were anticipating. I already built that into next year's budget too, because I locked some of those CDs in over a year or two. So I think we're gonna have a surplus of around 250, but we're gonna take that money and put it to capital projects for a 25% match for the ERU grant. So really, we have not even had to touch the fund balance reserves and the.
Okay, so can I just
Yeah.
clarify this? So that was our deficit from last year. That was our projected,
Yeah.
right? And so we looked at taking that out for what you're saying, all these adjustments. So in reality, at the end of the story, we weren't 606,000 to a deficit. We are what?
We're gonna
even out
we'd
because
give
we're
about
gonna
250 to the.
because we're gonna put 250 good, we're gonna send that.
Over.
So that ended up going from a $606,000 deficit last year budget to a $250,000 surplus.
Always worst case there, but the biggest
Okay.
things I want to point out though is we knew it was probably gonna be about 226. But the biggest thing here was the cyber reimbursement of 161,000 and the special ed contingency of 150,000. That's $310,000 worth of money. We don't know if we're gonna get each year. And then again, when I go through and show you the revenues, what I'm projecting, and there's things out there, we're gonna apply for that special ed money again. Okay. Yes.
Okay, so the ERU money is done.
Or the 200,000.
That's gonna be a surplus, yeah.
No, that's not overall, is it?
So this is what there's a 24-25. This is closed, not the 24-25.
Gotcha.
So,
That was last year.
Yeah, that's last year and how we're gonna close the year out. So that's why, people ask, why didn't we raise taxes last year? Well, I thought we were in a good shape last year. I've been doing, this is gonna be my 5th budget. we would use the ESSER's money, but really good. We got grant, and I'll show you that, and I'll show you the grant money that.
Yeah,
we
you
got.
did.
We were able to
You
do
did.
this, and we were able positive that we didn't need to raise taxes. We were getting more state money over those years too. That's not there this year. So there's a lot of unknown right now. And I do always budget conservatively because I want to have good news at the end. This year it's a little bit out though, because we're the $885,000 number is real, but there's things that Doc and I are going to go over too later on about things that we could look at to reduce that. But I want to give you the worst case scenario right now. So if that would come in the worst case scenario, our fund balance in the general fund would still be about $9.1 million at the end of the 25-26 year. Which puts us still, we're in good shape here, but let me just show you this.
Okay, wait a minute, wait,
Okay.
go back. So you are telling me that last year, that $606,000 number that we estimated last year, that is our, wait, go back, go forward one more?
Oh, sorry.
That is 884 for this year.
No, this is gonna be, this is this year's projection.
That's what I'm saying. So where last year at the end of the year, when we did the budget, we projected $606,000 X short. Now you're saying this year it's $884,000 some dollars
Oh,
Oh,
short.
no, it was actually 326 short. Get it back up to contingency. If you look at the screen.
Yeah, but when we passed the budget last year, I just looked it up.
Oh, yeah.
When we passed the budget, it was an estimated deficit of 606,000.
Yeah, just the big.
Okay, but so that number right there, all right, from last year is now 884.
No, it's 1.3.
Oh, it's 1.3.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I'm telling you here.
okay.
We had a lot of grants, we had a lot of ESSER money over those couple of years to help too. So what I'm trying to tell you is it does start to get out of control here. It's gonna double, like these are not one-time costs, these are in our operating budget. So we don't wanna end up like other schools where, we're 600,000, 1.3, that can go to 1.9 million. We gotta keep looking, but we're always, we don't know the state budget. I wish we had the state budget done right now, knowing what we're getting, because we've always said this for many years, it always puts us in a bind where we're at. So this would be worst case scenario, and that's what last year's was too.
Mhm.
And that's why when we go back here, these numbers, they take off, these are operating costs, the 25% match for the ERUs, that's one-time costs, we're good. They're not in our operating budget, we never budget like that. So where's the revenue coming from? There's our local sources. We're about, our total source, we're about 58.12% from local. A little bit, about a $400,000 increase. State, you can see it's pretty flat, 200 and some thousand,
What's the percent for state?
39.85. And then now we're back down to the non-ESSER years, 2% federal fund.
Yeah, that's good though.
This is where it's gonna be, these are ESSERs. ESSER's a little bit of ESSER, so you'll see that's falling off, that's gone. But we did things right, we used the money right, we didn't get ourselves in and add all these positions and then not being able to fund them ourselves, which other districts around have. Or that's the situation to it, right?
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay, so what's increasing this year? With no millage increase, our overall taxes, well, I have to budget a negative amount for the real estate tax of 30,689, because we're getting more from the state at 65,000. You know, you get the homestead, farmstead reduction, we're getting 65,000 more from the state, so we can't charge that to the taxpayer. So overall, our real estate taxes with that, or it's going up about $30,053. And that's just a little bit of increase in the assessed value. This does not have a tax increase in it right now, okay? But that's not much. I mean, the growth is very little. You see that. Earned income tax is up about $75,000 based on the collections and where we're going, heading the last couple of years. This is the trend, and that's what Barkheimer gave me the budget. Payment in lieu of taxes and real estate transfer taxes. I mean, these numbers have been consistently good, and the real estate transfer tax was always budgeted a little bit more conservatively. But these numbers were about $380,000 we're going to budget for the 25-26 year.
And what was it before?
We budgeted $300,000.
Okay. So they're slightly going
They're
up,
going
so,
up,
okay.
which is good trend too. That's a good trend. Amusement tax, it's probably back to where it was pre-COVID now. So that's good. It's up to about $95,000. That's good news, yeah. Interest income, like I said, I'm budgeting another $125,000 more than I did last year based on this and based on the interest rates we locked in with the CDs. So That puts us at $550,000 a year in interest earnings, so equivalently, that's probably 3.5 mils. We're getting from the interest earnings, so, and we gotta watch that, we gotta be cautious each year, because those rates could fall, and if they do fall. We're locked in for a couple years at the higher rates, but the newer ones out will be a little bit lower.
Eric,
Yes.
you keep on, like you just mentioned, 550,000 is equivalent to
Yeah.
three something
Great,
mils.
yeah,
Just give me a number, estimate is fine. Per $100,000 of real estate value, what's a mill worth?
I'll get that.
Oh, you will?
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, what a mill,
All right.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I know, I wanna get there too.
I'm just curious, I'm just trying to balance the apples and the apples.
The next thing is really great news. We have 40 slots of pre-K count. We got 11 more for next year. Some schools can't use it. So 11 of our 80 pre-K slots, 51 of them will be funded by pre-K counts. That's additional $128,000 of the revenue to us. So that's fantastic.
Is that?
Yes.
That is what I was asking, with the reasons and all.
No, this is different. No, these are our pre-K kids in our building. We have 40 in each area.
Okay.
51 of the 80 will be done by pre-K counts money, so it's gonna take us like $508,725, which is great. Again, 3/4 of a mil. Other revenues up about $17,000, it's miscellaneous revenue. Now, here's the bad news, this basic ed and special ed, and this is gonna be budgeted a little bit more than last year. So if you add those together, we're looking at about $115,000 increase, but we under budgeted 34,000 last year, so it's really only an $81,000 increase we're getting for both of them, that's awful compared to the prior years. And where they're putting all the money to is the tax adequacy, the new set aside the Ready to Learn block grant, and we don't get a share of that. We're one of the 12 districts that don't get that because we have an adequacy, but they said it should be locally funded.
Yeah, let me add to that.
Yes.
So because you've been frugal with tax increases, and this is the flaw in the state formula. If you read even today's paper, they have adequacy money they want to give out. You don't qualify unless you raise your millage 18 mils more than where you are now. Then you get qualified for this other money.
But you only get 9% of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's
adequacy,
crazy
yeah.
The way that formula works.
And we're
Not
adequacy
even
is like
going.
1.3 million. They're saying we should be, we're not funded enough by 1.3 million in the state, but they're saying it should be a local effort. So we'd only get 9% if we did raise the millage on $1.3 million, which is
There are forces,
120,000. Yeah.
there are forces that be that are trying to get that changed, but it
Yeah.
hasn't changed.
But that's what I'm gonna go over then too, then we'll be exactly. So the adequacy is really killing us right now.
If you're saying that,
Stupid formula.
we have to raise it.
18 mils to even disqualify. If we're in the situation we are right now.
Okay.
Maybe it's actually even 21.
And
It would have been 21, yeah.
And Jen, it's my understanding that even if we raise it,
Yeah,
that 18
It's-
mils,
yeah.
that's just a eligibility to qualify,
Yeah.
not eligibility to receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they might cut the
Yeah.
funding, it's not guaranteed every year.
Right.
And one last thing, again,
And 11 mils is $2 million.
in one of my former districts that had a lot of money, I will mention. Gets adequacy. Where their 1 mil's 350 grand there, but they get adequacy because they've raised mills over many years. Really, the formula is really not a fair formula.
Yeah, and we've been, a lot of people have been saying this, so that people know that it's out there, and Hasbro's pushing this. The schools that are getting the adequacy money, if you ran it through the regular formula, they'd still be getting more money, but it's spread out to everybody equally. So that's what Hasbro's even trying to fight for, is to get that money back, to where don't put so much in adequacy. They did it the first year. We can still close the gap in funding if you just ran it through the regular formula, which was changed in 15-16 year, which was really good. That was a good change.
Wait, so I have a question about this. This is actually for Justin. So I'm going to talk both basic education and special education. So since we've got that, misplay on numbers now, is there any waste in our budget? Plug yours. Is it as you've been going through our departments, Justin? Is there waste in our budget of our spending, what we do, that can help close that gap?
Yeah, I think there's some things, I think there's, I mean, it's not gonna add up to a massive amount
Right.
of money, but there are some things like some of the programs that we use. there are programs that we've purchased that we're looking at like usage reports of these programs that are out there. And there's some that aren't used very frequently. So, but I don't think there's any that aren't used at all, but there are some that aren't used frequently. And those are gonna be programs, we're gonna have some tough conversations with teachers and say, hey, look, this is a program that if this many people are using it, it's a program that's probably not gonna continue. But, you know, with a lot of those programs too, though, the bad part is that, you know, if there's been a 6-year agreement for this program and teachers aren't using it, we're still on the hook to pay that 6 year,
Yeah.
6 years of the program. So, between Janine and I, we have started looking at like the programs that we have that exist, the usage reports for those programs. And we are probably at some point gonna have some tough conversations about those
Okay.
programs.
But I think staffing and out, we try to minimize our outside places and staffing. I mean, we're pretty, I mean, that's a big hit.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
Staffing
Right,
and
yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
we're pretty good with that. We reviewed that as well. Figure.
Let me just say this, just to make it official, Mr. Zacharek is in attendance also.
Okay.
Wanted to let him know that.
Okay, safe school grants, now this is deceiving, because we had carryover money from the other year, because we didn't use it. We had the 2 PCCD mental health grants that were both recognized in the 24-25 year. We're only gonna have one, because the 23-24 money didn't come out until later on. We didn't need to spend it, because we had a local grant to cover it. So that was to cover the mental health, so it's decreasing, we're gonna get about 129,000. It's budgeted for the new thing, we had 129,000, 124 the prior year, that's why. So that's because we recognize the revenue in 24-25 over for 2 year. So,
And that's why the MOUs are attached to the application process. The MOUs to local.
for the PCC, we have to have that in here for the PCC. Yeah,
Did you talk about the transportation subsidies? Did I miss that?
no, not. Yeah.
So-
But
What is that?
we get reimbursed transportation.
Right,
The
okay,
CPI number went up, so it goes up, our expenses are going up, but we get more reimbursement from the state too. So it's about $43,000 we get.
Oh, okay.
Transportation. So,
sorry, I just like.
I missed the thing, I'm glad you did that.
Eric, can you talk on it and explain that?
Right now, the state,
I thought transportation was one of our biggest expenses.
well, it's a big expense.
It is, but
It's
we
what
get
we're getting
subsidy.
reimbursed from the State, it's on a formula, this is,
So that's get reimbursed.
that's the increase. It's gonna be. We're about $1.7 million a year from the state budget, yeah, it's up about 43 for transportation, specifically for transportation.
So right now it's about 1.7.
I have to look at my number, I think it's $1.7 million I have, but you'll see it when I put you'll have the state budget, you'll have line item by line item. I think we're budgeting $1.73 million for reimbursement. And that's all based on the state formula, age of buses, miles with, miles without, heads, number of kids in the bus.
Yeah, it's a very
It
competitive
is so,
formula.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
So this is probably gonna like, you might know this, you're really good. What do we pay transportation a year?
Oh, we pay more.
Well, I know we pay more than that, but I was wondering,
My budget,
what is your yearly budget? Where have we been running with transportation?
next year we're budgeting, I think it's around 3.75 million, that's everything, that's athletics, field trips, parochial, our busing, special ed, everything, yeah. So we're not getting 50% reimbursed, but that's how, our district's unique, it has the size of a 234 square miles.
Mhm.
So we have our challenges definitely there.
Well, yeah, that's actually a big challenge because I'm not sure it's being managed correctly. I think the total transportation thing, I mean, I know Dave's in charge of that, but I think we pay, there's a lot of buses that go out with one kid on them. And I just think we need to look at that.
We can talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of debits and credits flying all over.
All over the place.
The roster shows a full bus, even if there's one kid, it's the roster, the ones that are capable when you do that.
I know that. I know that.
It could be better managed, even if we go to like smaller buses on the surface.
Well,
and all
that, yeah,
stuff.
and
We
that.
did talk about that before, we have the.
We did talk
Why we
about
have
that.
Minivans, and buses, mini buses.
Yes,
So,
but I think that's something that we need to look at, especially in the next, when our MOU runs out after 25, 27, I mean, 26, 27, because that's gonna be a power play right there between us and Lodestar. And, we gave last time, we've been paying 93,000 extra dollars a year, and this will be 4 years, so we do this. That's what's a lot of this sort of budget. It wasn't really our problem.
I
Was
think it's
Dave's
actually
problem.
just changed.
One good thing
This,
is,
well, yeah, we'll start this year. Yeah, we'll start this year for next year. Yeah.
one good thing, diesel price went down.
Yes,
Oh, big.
you'll see that too.
Yes. I was looking at the budget from like 3 years ago and our diesel, and it was like 4.4,
Oh, yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, when it's,
So just clarifying regarding transportation with one bus, one kid. Isn't that so we don't have kids riding the bus for an hour?
there could be special ed kids that,
I'm not
yeah.
talking about special ed kids.
I don't think the other, I don't, no, there, well, I know that we have lower bus sizes because of the different rides, but I don't know if you're referring to the one with the special ed runs or regular runs.
Just in general, because I know there's, but I know.
But I
there's
know
both.
that they have busing because the long bus rides, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, those little buses have wheelchair accessibility.
Yeah, that's
all that
different.
stuff,
Yeah.
so that's.
Yeah.
That's the-
No, but I
So
agree.
it's different when it's special
We
education.
should look
I
at
get that.
what you said.
Yeah, but we are wasting a lot of money in transportation because the people we refuses to use minivans. And when DMJ uses them, all the other districts around use them. Dave and I fought hard about this because he doesn't think they're safe, but you know what? And he charges the
Right.
same price for a minibus as he does a regular bus. Even Latrobe doesn't
May
do
I
that.
interject?
Go ahead, Joe.
I just wanted to say regarding transportation, I have 4 buses that pass my house in the morning. And I know at least 3 of them are not special needs buses. So there's definitely money being wasted in transportation.
So we need to look, and like I said, in January, we can meet with that, then we can bring those all.
Okay.
And then social security and retirement, we get more subsidies coming in because our salaries went up. And plus the PEASR went up a little bit as too, so that state gives us 50% back on our social security and retirement. You'll see why that went up because our wages went up. Next slide.
What's Beecher, is that about 34%?
It went from 33.9 up to 34%, it's back up to 34%. And I can't see that changing anytime soon, it's probably gonna stay that for. But the good news is we get 50% back. Going to the federal side now, we did not change the budgets for Title I, that should be Title II and Title IV, I'll change that. We kept them the same as the money we got for 24, 25, so that's one of the unknowns. I don't think the money, I know it was brought to another board meeting about the money going away, I think those monies are secure and idea be secured. I just don't.
They'll
think
come
there's
through a
gonna be
good
any
department.
increases.
Yeah, and they'll come through another department
Yeah, yeah.
instead of Ed.
And then the last thing is our energy, we have an energy note out with First National Bank. As we pay on it, the interest goes down, our reimbursement from the federal government for the qualified energy project, it's about $17,635.
Okay, I have a question with you saying that because I asked Donnie this morning and neither of us found quick. Could you tell me what our outstanding debts are?
Softball, hold on.
Which is way too much a lot.
So as you read this, okay, so we're down to. The 2011 aid was done in 1819, 2016 bonds were paid off in the 22-23 year. So now you can see from 2017. That is the energy, that's the energy one with the federal grant. We get reimbursed on our interest. So the 2017 is the one I'm talking about there, the qualified energy project. That'll be paid off in 26, 27. The 2018.
Okay, wait, sorry. I am just like, that just went way over my head.
Okay, yeah.
Wait, so when you say to me annual debt service, we borrowed money for something. We borrowed money for energy?
The energy project, yeah.
Oh, what energy project?
That's
I
what
wasn't on the board
yeah,
then.
Constellation came in and did a lot of energy upgrades. And
Oh,
we were able to get a note, see, PlanCon's been gone from the state for a long time, so we were getting some reimbursement on that through the federal government based on that thing, so. That doesn't happen anymore, you're not really getting any reimbursement from the state, and the 2018, this was a refinancing of other
right,
debt.
right.
So that, we're not getting any PlanCon reimbursement on that.
Right.
And then,
When you say energy.
Yeah.
Updates, what kind of updates?
that was what Constellation came in for, they did the, whatever the project was.
They
I wasn't
did,
here.
they did all the schools.
Yeah, they did all the schools, like they did, the new, at the high school, they did the new, boiler room, and they did things, the lower energy costs as well.
They did lights, they did
Yeah,
everything,
everything.
absolutely everything.
I didn't come until that project was pretty much over at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was a good
That saved
investment.
a
because
lot.
we
I'm
got-
guessing, but I'm guessing it was a pretty big one because that was a pretty good sized debt.
I'm sorry.
Was that a pretty good sized debt? I mean, it cost us a lot of money to do that. I mean, I know it saved money, so.
That was the principal.
So was that,
interest, though.
so was it like not quite $300,000 though? So I don't understand. How much money would we have borrowed to do this is what I'm
Probably
asking.
about $5 million. It was probably $5 million.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
It was a huge update in all the buildings.
Yeah, and you know
Okay.
what? And then get the federal money, like you don't get that from the state. It used to be called Plan Com before. We used to get money when we did our project, we'd get money from the state. That doesn't even happen.
Okay.
The big thing though on this, so you'll see our annual debt service, the gray column. And if you go down to 25, 26, we're at about 2,076,000. We're gonna be like that pretty much the whole way till we're out of debt. So the good news is we're debt free in 2030.
So this debt is totally coming from that one project.
Oh, this is a combination.
Combination. This is the debt from that project.
Okay.
This is the debt. I think some of this money was borrowed for the project too. And then the EWCTC debt, we have a portion that's belonged to that too. And we took that off.
Building project.
Yeah,
for
for the
their
building, their
project?
renovations up there, yeah.
Okay.
We pay our share for that.
I'm not gonna put words in Cindy's mouth, but I think the question Cindy was wondering is. Where is the list that has every single debt listed and its current value?
Thanks, yeah, there you go.
It's gonna be financed over the years. I don't. That's just the,
So what are we still paying on?
that's the total debt of everything that the school district has. Everything,
And a lot
all the
of times they were
renovations,
rolled
everything
together.
through the years.
But we don't have a list that in this year we borrowed this much money, and this year we borrowed this much
I
money,
could pull
and
the
this year we
bond, I
borrowed
could
much.
pull the bond issues to tell you what they were refinanced for. Some of it was refinancing to get a better rate, but, and some of it was for the energy project. This CTC one, we did that. I mean, that was through their bond issue. You saw the renovations that were done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, my idea, I don't care about getting a better bond rate, I don't care about, but my question is when we are starting to look at a significant debt here, and you're talking raising taxes, what have we done to put us in the position we're in so that we don't do this again, is what
Well,
I'm
what we're doing
saying.
is we've got a lot of stuff done. Our roofs are done.
Right.
Like everything's done. We're in pretty good facility wise shape. So
Okay,
when we're at 2033, when this debt's paid off, there's gonna be building projects that need to be done. And then that's when you go out to borrow the money again, so we keep up with the facility to maintain the
Okay.
facility.
Yeah, Cindy,
Okay.
actually, some of this probably includes the indebtedness from the secondary building out north, because when they added on out there,
Yeah.
that was a huge.
And then we got
They inherited
refinanced,
that.
yeah.
at LVE,
No, well, the whole high school.
No,
oh, the old high school.
Yeah, see,
They added on a gym, did a whole lot of work, and that was right about 2006, 7, I don't remember.
Okay,
They were
That,
trying,
that had to be rolled, that had to
So
be rolled
rolled
into
over.
other, yeah,
they were trying to make sure we
Yeah.
had to keep that building open, so they.
did
put all
everything.
put
that
money
in
into
there.
it to
But-
make
Right.
it.
but here's the good thing. If you look at our overall debt ratio, we're financially debt, we're in good, we're in really good.
I mean, when you see this 2032, 33, that is phenomenal to know we'll finally be out of debt. Based on what we had back then,
Okay.
it was absolutely huge, and there was no
And you'll
fund
see,
balance.
I have a
none.
fund balance screen, yeah, so we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I think if you ask where we are financially, we're able
in
we're able to
very
do that
good shape.
EWCTC without increase that we didn't have tax increase that year either.
That
So
was huge.
a lot of things go into this, but the
But
EWCTC
you
is done
can't,
so
you
bad.
can't see it like you're asking for
Yeah.
line item.
Yeah.
because A lot of times it gets rolled into another,
Another
because
one,
you get
yeah.
a better bond rate.
Yeah,
But that's
Yeah.
$168,000 a year that was an added expense back in 21, 22 that we
22.
didn't have to increase millage on for that too. That would have been.
Yeah.
Well, and let's just be honest, like, I know Cindy's asking for those specific numbers, because she wants to be able to point out what we spent that was probably not necessary.
well, no, I want to be able, when people come to me and say, why is our school in debt?
It's
That's because
so-
I have to be able to give them an answer
Yeah.
of why,
It's a
why are we in
combination.
debt?
The
Yeah,
roofs are
Yes.
under, the roofs are all good, like, we're doing a lot of good stuff and the facilities are in good shape. Now, we know the parking lots need done,
yeah.
and we have a money set aside in the fund balance, but if we can make it to 2033 and do it as the bond issue, I wanna do that, but we'll
Yeah.
see how
It's,
it
it's
goes.
money management, and what
Yeah,
is,
it's
is
what
what
it
it
is.
is, and you have to have good money management or you go under.
But the good thing is, we could do another bond and have an annual debt service of $2 million and upgrade the facilities, then it would need to be done. But overall, our facilities are in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and as long as you don't have to do that, you don't want to do it, but it's an option if you
Yeah.
have to, there's.
And usually it gets older, when they get, when you start getting,
You have to.
you have to. You want to keep, you don't want to go where the buildings are crumbling. I know other
Yeah.
districts.
Even the consolation was a good investment to upgrade all the.
Oh,
lights and
yeah.
every energy. line.
The air conditioning with the-
It was huge.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
They have an elementary in the building, air
Yeah,
conditioning in
it
elementary.
makes you.
And
So-
even the middle school was part of that,
Yeah,
when
air
they
conditioning.
put in.
See, I don't
air
know, I
conditioning.
wasn't. here for the
Yeah,
project.
so,
I don't
yeah,
know the details. I-
No, you, that, I was here when you came.
It was a telling of the project.
We had a good healthy. Like, we were very healthy then,
Sure.
okay,
Sure.
I know.
This other stuff's really good.
Yeah, I know we.
Hey, Eric, one quick
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
The acceptable level of debt is 15%.
Yeah.
On a $35 million budget, we're around 9.8%.
Yeah.
We're below
So we're way,
acceptable.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've always been very.
That debt
frugal.
service number's really good.
right,
$2
we've
million.
always been very, very frugal.
Yeah, it was, well, especially when we had no money at all in 2008.
Just looking at our local source, obviously the big thing is the real estate tax, 74% of our budget's for real estate taxes. The next one is the earned income tax, real estate transfer tax, and music tax, capital tax is about 2.5 million. Delinquencies about delinquent tax, 852,000. Local grants, that's where our IDB money and our pre-K counts money goes through. It's, we have to run it through the local, even though it's state and federal funded, it's a pass through from local agencies. It's the IU passes the IDB money through, and Seton College passes the pre-K counts. Some others, so that, like I said, majority of it is there. And our state sources, 52.6% of their basic subsidy or regular block grant is what we get from the state. 19.02% from the Social Security retirement reimbursement, transportation, 13% of what we get from the state. Property tax reduction, that's going up to like $500,000. So you'll see a little bit more of a discount on your fall tax for the homesteads, farmstead if you qualify. And what's that 9.4? I can't.
Yeah, that yellow thing,
I don't know my fault.
the yellow thing that I can't see.
That is
That's what they-
special ed. Special ed. That's all the.
That's all state, that's the
all
state broken
State
down.
totally is 13.96 million, it's 40% of our, all total revenues come from the state. The state breakdown is right here. Of that 39%, that's where it comes from.
All driven by what market value aid ratio, free reduced lunch.
Everything, yeah.
So-
And our bad thing is our
Well,
personal income.
yeah.
The personal income is. That's what drives down our aid ratio so low.
Average person,
Yeah.
because of all the.
The pluses and the minuses.
The pluses and the minuses. So we're in expenditures now, okay, so let me get through this, I wanna show you some of the good news on where we've been and all that, but we're about 36.3 million. Now, this is everything, we get everything loaded in this budget, okay? Our salaries, that number's 500 and salaries have gone up. 509,162, can you move that, please?
Eric, you went too fast. What's the total amount that you had on the bottom of it? I didn't quite
The
get that. I'm
expenditures.
sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
It was on the screen before that.
It is
36 something.
36,363.
36,363, 102.
Thank you. I was looking for the bottom.
So it went up 4% from last year, but in there, we have built in there, it's the normal payroll increase, pay increases we have with our unions. Which we got pretty good contracts when we sell them,
We really
3% was really good. But we also added in there the director of that position, which we talked about, and there's 2 security guards that were not in the 24-25 budget, one at Mellon and one at the middle school. So that has it all encompassed. And I know this is totally where we're at, but we're gonna be talking about staffing later on, so we'll get into that. So this is everything in there. And of course, our benefits have gone up a little bit more than the salary because our health insurance premiums went up 9%, but don't panic here. I know we've had 3 years, it was 10, 15, now 9. It's coming back. We did some things with the consortium to eliminate the weight loss drugs. They're not part of it anymore. That ate a lot of the reserves out and may put us in a situation. But I talked to the Indiana consortium and the Cambria County consortium, they're at 22%. next year for 25, 26. So we're managing it, we're doing what we can up there to manage our exposure because we're self-insured through the consortium. We're getting it where eliminating that was probably about $5 million a year that's coming out. Additional premium, insurance costs.
One
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
And I know this is kind of in the wrong place, but the weight loss drugs, you're not referring to people with diabetes that have to take
They have-
only specifically weight loss.
Yeah, the diabetes, absolutely, no, that is on, and that's totally on. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yes,
Just
yes.
want to clarify.
Yeah, definitely. The dental vision was the same, the dental appeasers, it went up a little bit, our payroll went up, so that's why you're gonna see an increase of about 195,000 in retirement and social security costs, but we're getting some of that back from the state then as well too, which is good. Professional services down a little bit, we really, thanks to Janine and Greg, the hotspots, we got it really good done to a good system. We don't need to rely on them as we did through COVID, the hotspots are down to almost nothing. And our OTPT services have been down as well too, so that's our budget, about $33,000 less in expense there. Other parts of services are about 3%, $210,000. District tuition, outside placements, and private tuition, I'm increasing about $33,000. Basically, what we're seeing, the increase in these days, what we're gonna be approving, like the outside placements, we're really been level at that, which is good. We've been seeing some graduations.
I was gonna say, I thought in the last couple of years, we are decreasing. some.
Last year we
time
did.
now-
Last year
Yeah,
we did.
and didn't you say we have some coming out of the Delphi this year?
Yes, but we
We
have.
got some going in.
We had, yeah, but I think next year's gonna see our big boom. We're gonna have a couple more that big costs that are gonna be coming out of outside placements. It's the next year for the 26-27 budget. We should be able to see that decrease again. Now, this is cyber too. I have cyber's all building this as well too. So this is at the worst case scenario of budgeting that I'm keeping it pretty level, just up about 30,000. But we did see a good amount of cyber graduate last year. We did have some new ones come in though, and I always gotta build that in.
Okay, so considering cyber.
Yeah.
You're saying the cyber costs are coming down.
They're down a little bit from where we were 3 years
Is it
ago.
only because of graduation or is it because they're actually coming back? Because it's only because of graduation.
Graduation, we have families that come in. I have a.
Yeah, I think-
Four.
They
They move in, don't even come to our school. That's
I
8
just-
kids.
I
Yeah.
just wanna know, are we
Yeah.
getting more or less
And
cyber?
it's also helping the formula change a little bit too for the special ed ones. Our costs are down from like 30,000, 1,000 down to about 28,000 now too with the new formula. So
Yeah.
it's there. I think this is a good trend is what I'm trying to say. This is very good. We're not increasing it $200,000 or $300,000 every year.
So do you, with that statement and special ed costs coming down, is that because when they go to cyber, they're not putting them in special ed as often as they
Well,
were?
they still are, but we have no control.
I understand that. I'm
But
just
that's
wondering,
some of the special ed numbers are down, yes, in the cyber. They are definitely.
and
Okay.
Is that gonna be part of, I know there's things coming about the state and the
No,
cost of that.
this is no cyber. Reform. This is what they just passed last year. That's it, nothing else.
Oh, no, but I mean, the special ed part of that, is that part of the proposal they're making about
Cyber reform.
reimbursement and all of
Yeah, well,
that?
cyber reform and reimbursement, they have nothing in there right now. Then this budget has it in there.
But it potentially could.
Potentially, and I'll have that on the side. Yeah, potentially.
Okay, I have a question for Justin. So in the special education, and I know one of the things that Ed was very proud of was that we kept them in our system as long as we could. Sometimes I think to the detriment of the students and against the wills of the parents. However, where is your evaluation with our placement? Is it better to keep them in? I know when we keep them in, then we have to have a lot more aides. We pay that way, that way. Can you give me any kind of a balance between cost as if we place them out or we keep them in and then have to give them all their extra services here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when there's a student that has an individual PCA that's assigned, I mean, that's pretty much that's almost the same cost as what you would pay if you would send out to an outside placement, so it's kind of a wash with that. I think the way we would decide those is really on the individual, you know, the IEP teams, you know, typically when we're making those decisions, it's made based upon safety concerns as opposed to we can't educate, because we can always find a way to educate a student as long as they're safe in school. I think a lot of times where there's concern over safety, that's what we consider it, and that's when that IEP
Okay.
considers it.
But the cost is not really.
But the cost is really.
The transportation.
Well,
cost
you're adding a lot of
comes-
transportation, yeah, because then you have to add, it's a lot of
That's
extra
one of the-
transportation, you've got an aid, you've got a lot of that, and that's where you get, and that's, I guess that's, because that's what I didn't realize, I didn't know the cost for the PCA versus, you know, so
That's the biggest cost.
the education, or the
You know, if
transportation
you have that
thing.
wheelchair.
It has the
Yeah.
biggest cost. Usually, like you said, you have to have an aid on that, but yeah, that's where the cost is. And that's why we're able to accumulate these costs and apply for that Act 16. We get more funding based on the cost of each student. So I personally do that calculation because after each level of amount you spend, it goes up ADM. Like if you're spending over so much, you can get over 3 ADMs for that person.
Oh,
And then we
okay,
can apply for that contingency money, which we were able to
Okay.
do the last 4 years ago. Yeah.
okay.
Transportation costs and EWCT costs, they're all under the other purchase services, they've gone up to them. So, and then, again, and Cindy, you've been on the board at the CTC, Jen, our costs have increased, or we've incurred in debt service. And we still haven't raised taxes over those 4 years. I mean, we've added new programs up there. So,
Right.
again, I wanna emphasize, we haven't cut anything and not raised taxes, we've been expanding things and not raising taxes, and we'll get to you why we did that.
Well, and there was some line item things that came in at EWCPC and things that were completely out of our.
Oh, yeah,
control.
oh, totally.
And
And if you don't get the grants, it gets passed on to us, so
Right.
we do get money back, which is good
And
too.
they're in the same situation as us because they're not always eligible for grants because of their size, budget,
Right, yeah,
all of that, so.
They budget for the worst then too.
Right, and so that has no bearing on what we can or cannot do. Right,
But I just wanna say, costs have been rising there, no cuts, still no taxes.
right.
well, that, I think our general consensus, just from talking around the board, is that school is well worth the increase, right?
Absolutely.
You know, when I came back this year from the budget meeting and I was kind of like
Yeah.
upset, but I'm like, I can't. We're, you know, so many of our kids are utilizing that and they're going places, and that's the learning skills of this area. So we cannot not do
It's a
that.
great-
Yeah, it is a great thing.
Well, money well
Yeah,
invested.
yes.
Supplies have increased about 316,000. Now, it's a little, you'll see that the equipment replacement was down about 109,000. We're buying Chromebooks for the whole middle school. They came out of the COVID. We bought them with COVID money back in 2020. So we're replacing all those iPads with Chromebooks. That's why that's up a little bit. Utilities and.
So how good are those good? How long are those good for then?
Probably 5 years.
Yeah,
About to have to fight.
Okay.
It's usually 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Building operation supplies here and the utilities have gone up a little bit, about 86,000. The curriculum cost, that's a big one, $160,000. What I had budgeted from last year to this year, so that'll be.
So question, in your curriculum costs now that we're getting into this cycle, are you building in, so if the Chromebooks only last 5, are you building in a per year Chromebook?
It's our technology budget. Yeah, we got it
Okay.
all
All right,
covered.
good.
That's all under
Okay.
technology budget. And I want to be.
So we're not
safe.
hit with that every 5 years, boom, boom, boom,
Our
boom.
technology budget was, I think, $300 lower than last year's.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes.
Now,
Awesome. But we cycle in laptops for the teachers. Every
Yeah.
year we have a cycle
Cycle,
we're building
right.
there. But this is totally curriculum. That's the one-time cost of having all this curriculum at one time, which we're not gonna have anymore.
Right.
Yeah, 116,000 building that budget. We're moving forward with that.
Okay.
Moving with that.
So question regarding books.
Yeah.
A big part of why we use the technologies, so that we're cutting the cost of the actual books that get updated much faster. So do we buy just one book for each classroom, or do we give each student a book? Because I know before what we were doing was you get a book per classroom and then you took a picture with your iPad.
So, I mean, my views on technology in the classroom, it's not replacing, it's not curriculum, it's a tool.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like handing a kid a pencil.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how that should be utilized,
So
so,
that's not in exchange for
No.
books. We
No.
Still have
No.
books. I'm just trying to clarify because I see a lot of things that we're using technology instead of books. I don't know.
no,
I wanna differentiate.
it's not because, we're not using the technology instead of. It's the technology delivering. So it may be easier for a kid to take home just the iPad and
Right.
view the page.
Right.
Or the work,
Instead.
rather than the whole book.
Okay, and so my other question just popped right on. Oh, so we did a pilot program to compare with the kids' iPads versus Chromebooks. Was the middle school the only one that wanted the Chromebooks, or did we not do a pilot in each school? Cause I know
No,
for,
we've, so this has been a slow switch. Okay, and so we put Chromebooks in the classroom. We also are taking into account state testing moving online next year. As a portion of this. So there's a lot of factors that play into it. Teacher surveys went out. And as far as, you know, what they think, I also think teachers, it's what they know. So they might be afraid. And that's why I gave them some in their classrooms to work with. So we're at the high school, instead of handing the freshmen iPads, we're handing them Chromebooks. Okay. So that's still the same thing we're doing, the devices change.
Just different.
Okay, so right now, the freshman, sophomore class have Chromebooks, the junior, senior class have iPads.
so is the cost of the Chromebook less
Comparable.
Well, maybe a
It's
couple dollars
comparable
last year.
because, the way it works, a Chromebook, you buy the device, but then you have to buy a license with it. And with the cost of the license, and the cost of an iPad has fluctuated, over the past few years. Varying between like, because we get a discount when we buy them in packs of 10 from like $329, and then they were higher when we first started, now they're lower, it just depends.
So not necessarily a budget question, but since you're right on this topic.
Yeah,
If a parent says, I don't want my kid using technology,
we've had it.
we've had that and we actually say, here's your papers and you're not required to
No.
use technology. I just want to clarify.
No, it's not ever a have to, it's more, the school looks at it, we are preparing these kids for the future.
Exactly.
And their future is, I mean, any job, any career is going to have some piece of
Right,
technology.
I'm just asking because some people
People
say.
say, no, it's never a have to, and I will say this, Jen, if a teacher is telling them they have to, then that's a conversation with that building principal.
Right.
On what's happening in that classroom.
I just wanted to clarify, a parent can say, I don't want my kid having.
Absolutely, we
That's
have
what I
it.
mean.
And the last part of supplies, the fuel cost decrease, yeah, we're down to like $2.33 a gallon.
Sweet.
And 3 years ago, we were 4 something.
Yeah, that is sweet.
And the majority, I think only 3 cents of it we're covering
Yeah.
through the bus contract.
Yeah, just, I mean, if you
Good.
guys got that, we, you know, because our bus contract, they cover.
So much, they get the CPI.
Yeah, they get the
increase there.
first, yeah, so we're only covering like 3 cents a gallon this year, which is like amazing.
And the equipment's down, we budgeted the teacher iPads under equipment, it should have been under supplies by last year, that's why you see a big decrease there. So if you get them together, it's not so bad, because we bought the Chromebooks there, and then we have more category 2 expenses under E-rate last year compared to this year coming up, because we only have $35,000 left, you approved that 2 meetings ago. E-rate money for the Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi up there, the wireless, I mean.
Yeah.
So that's why it's down, and then our membership, debt service memberships dues are down, our debt service payments down, you can see by a little bit, almost $18,000, and our memberships are down about $20,000.
Hotspots to be used now.
Oh my God,
Approximately.
we're down, I think we're down to like under 20, yeah, oh yeah, it's great. Oh,
Oh, wow.
During COVID.
but
So that's
I have some good news of what, we got some money back from the audit, we get into that. I had so many new slides this year, so I can't wait to get to the good. So now that all the bad news is over.
Somebody better order lunch.
Yeah.
Now,
You need new batteries.
I didn't put new battery, did you turn it off? No. You talked to them.
So in conclusion,
Technology is telling you.
go back.
So I go back.
Go back. Okay. Here's what I want to say the good news.
Oh, good.
Okay, this
is
is-
a good slide.
Now listen. So over the last 4 years, no tax increase. More program, more everything, and this is how we got there. So the last 4 years, 2 big ones right away. The ERU project and the baseball complex, 1.6 and $1 million. Some of the things that we're not really out in the public. The special education, we've got it 4 years in a row now, The one year we only got 147, 117, but it's almost $600,000 that we were able to apply and get that back to the school district. We never can budget for that because we might not know if we get it or not. 350,000 for the mental health from the Mellon Foundation. That's what we were able to do, help with our mental health with ESS. Another $250,000 private donation for the field. A big one here, state dual enrollment grant. We got it that one year, 75,000 last year. Remember, all the kids were able to do dual enrollment. Basically, nobody paid anything, which is great. Westmoreland County Conservatory District, we had to do that fixed behind Mellon School there, $50,000 there. Private donor for the vapes, 335,000. Private donor for the college now for the last 4 years, $35,000. And these are all competitive. These are not PCCD grants. These are all competitive. The only thing I have in here for ESSERS is the ESSERS Children and Youth. We only got $18,000, but all the schools didn't spend their money. So Ed and I were able to apply for more money for our homeless transportation, $97,000 more money than we should have got through ESSERS. Competitively, we got it. Hotspots. We were able to go through E-rate during those bad years. We were 200 hotspots, almost $59,000 worth of E-rate money we were able to apply through with. I'm not taking all the credit because Janine and our company, no, the other one, our E-rate company.
Oh, I don't know, I just know Mary.
Yeah, we do that every year. They helped us out so many on that. The E-rate, they were really good. So another 59,000. FEMA COVID money. This stuff when I first got here, we applied for the FEMA COVID money for supplies and different things like that. $44,000. The SRO grant that was competitive. Ed applied that one year. We got it. That was not PCCD money. That was state money. And the bocce grant for the special ed, $7,500 that first stop year. $4.2 million. That's 23.34 mils.
So that SRO grant, we're done with that, right?
That was they changed it to PCCD now. It used to be the state used to have their own for 25 to 35,000. We got it the 1 year for $25,000. PCCD might have another grant out for $25,000.
Did we have coverage for this year for a grant for?
I had PCCD. I'm hoping they're putting it in for another $25,000 next year.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I did have that.
we
Yes.
should have money towards the SRO.
Yeah, if the budget passes at the state,
No, I meant last
25,000.
year. Okay, so, just a quick question here. Are these are all grants
These are all competitive
Competitive
grants.
grants.
that we applied for?
Yes, it's not the PCCD mental health. That's
No, I
everything.
know,
Yeah,
but
that's
we
all.
applied
No
for
ESSERS
these
money.
grants.
Only the ESSERS
So-
money was competitive. Yeah.
Right, so this kept us in sense from raising taxes.
This does, and that's what I think. Cindy, you would talk about this before. We need to let people know this. Let's celebrate the good news because this is great news, and this is why we're able to do the things we're able to do.
This goes past 4 years.
4 years
not-
without
not
that.
2.
4 years out,
For
yeah.
4 years.
Now, the state did the PCCD and other grants, but we just have to. Everybody gets these at the felt like the mental health. Yeah.
Now, these grants, since we know what they are, other than stuff like the COVID money and things like that, are those all grants we are applying for again, or are we not eligible to?
As when we can apply for them, we will.
Well, I think
The state dual enrollment has not been out. We checked. It's not out.
the personal
going to
ones, though,
college.
those were just private donors. Those weren't, those,
We
are
can still
those
apply.
really, are those actually competitive? Do those come up every year? Do they?
Well, with the private funding, though, I remember Tim and Ed going to talk to the Mellon Foundation about that. That was 2 years ago.
Well, this is different. I have those listed separately.
They're separate.
They're separate. This is some anonymous private donor, but we can apply every year for it. But and we can do every year. Now, the dual enrollment, it's going to the community colleges now. It's not going to like they did before the schools. So the community colleges can offer a lower rate for the kids. I liked it when it came to us because it was good for us. You're able to control it and get the kids into the colleges. So that's changed. Unknowns. 25-26 budget is not passed yet. So these are the low numbers. Like I'm telling you, there could be more money driven through that state budget formula, not tax adequacy. We'll apply again for the $150,000. We'll definitely have a couple students eligible. You only can get you only get $150,000. That's it. So we'll apply for that again. Hopefully we get that. Title I, 2, and ID and 4 and IDB allocations were all unknown. We kept them the same. That could go up. A cider charter or reform. Who knows where that's coming from? And hopefully they add back this cyber subsidy we received in 24-25. That's $162,000. So if we got that 150 and the 162, that's 312, we can take off the $814,000 number. But we don't know that, and you need to know that when you're passing the
So-
budget.
I'm gonna put it into real numbers, so if we're paying approximately 20-some thousand per cyber student.
It's
Is that not in that, calculated?
No,
the same
it's
way?
different. It's the non-special ed students like 11,000, 12,000. The special ed students around 28,000.
Holy smokes.
Oh, yeah.
I know there's a. big
No, there's a huge difference, yeah.
with special. Wow.
So,
And that's why the cyber schools want to identify these kids as special ed.
Yeah.
if it
so
was
it's
speech,
funny.
The day that they bring them in, whether or not it's speech therapy
Yeah.
or language therapy,
And
whatever.
the cyber school itself is not providing extra money. Those services,
no, they stay with the salaries.
right, but I mean, the services are not provided by cyber school. Those services are provided by things like Medicaid or private insurance. Right?
Probably.
Because if cyber is doing strictly education
Well, they could have speech. They could have a speech pathologist and stuff.
through cyber.
Probably.
Yeah.
There's some service.
We've had special ed teachers that met with kids.
No, I mean special things like.
Like OT and
Yes,
PT, all
yes,
those
yes,
things.
all those
That
things.
goes-
It's in their IEP, they have to provide it.
I'm just saying it's in those things as part of cyber.
Well, I think that's why the cost is so high, Jen, because when you get somebody that falls in that and they get home and they have to. Yeah, and you have to have in-house services for kids. The cyber has to provide them. That's why the cost is higher.
So what if, so say, if remember the $884,000 number? Say if we get the 150 and the 162, we're still 500 and some thousand short, okay? And that's we don't know if we're gonna get this money. Especially the cyber money, who knows? And then let me go to the next slide. This is the slide, this is where we are. For 16 years, before we hit the 25-26 year, it was 0, 0, 4, 2, 0, 1.50, 1.8, 1.7, 1.9, 1.8, 2.15, and 4 zeros again. But I think we were able to do the 4 zeros with a lot of that grant money, which is great. So now we're in the 25-26 year, and that's where the big question is, okay? I can't stand here and tell you not to raise taxes or raise taxes. I want to give you the facts because this thing can snowball if we don't get our hands around it. And you don't want to be a 33% increase like the county was, you know what I mean? If you look at the historical chart, and I know Goff looked at it, when I showed him this, he goes, this is powerful. Usually if you go a couple zeros, you did have a little bit over a 1 or 2 mil increase. But we couldn't raise the taxes when we had this stuff coming in. And so just keep this one on your mind. I want to pass out to everybody too.
I have a question. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I had someone tell me this once, and I want to make sure my mind is clear. Technically, a school can raise that minimum amount, it's what, 2%, that minimum?
4%.
Okay, it's 4%.
Yeah, which are
Index is
point-
4%.
Okay.
Yeah, ours is, which is that
We could have
3.4 mils.
added the mills, even though we didn't technically need that.
Yeah.
Okay, because I.
Over the years.
I
It's usually
know-
been about 4%.
Yeah, I know a couple of years that I was on the board or just coming to meetings. We raised it at that 1.5 and 1.8, I recall. Michelle would put those in just to keep us from going into the red the following year. So.
Well, to keep the fund balance up.
Right.
And to keep the fund.
Okay, so let's
That's
talk,
key.
let's talk about the fund balance.
Okay, let's go
instead.
there. Let's go there. Let me come back to this. Okay, just hold on. Go back to Dawn, the assessed value. Okay, so here's where we are. Then we'll hit the fund balance after this. So if you take the market value of your house, if you have $150,000 market value house, you use the A ratio to get that to your assessed value. So on a $150,000 house, your assessed value is around 13,000, almost 14,000. A $1 million increase would be $14. If you have a $200,000 house, your assessed value is gonna be around 18.6, it'll be at $18.60. And this will be, we'll have this in your packet too. This will be after I get it done, I'll put this in your board. He's gonna give it. Yeah, you'll have it in your board.
So that.
So go on down there, in a $400,000 market value house, your assessed value is gonna be about $37,000. One
Is that
of
what
those
he's got up there?
$37 will be increased.
Per household that pays.
Yeah,
realistic.
Yeah, well, let me go one more thing. So one bill is 181,000 in revenue. If we did go to the index, we could raise it 3.5 mils, I'm not saying, the same we could. That would generate almost $600 and some thousand worth of revenue, okay? But let's go to those three. The homestead, farmstead, the median homestead value in the district, that means people that qualify for the homestead, farmstead, they're at this range. So if you did even 1 mil, it's only gonna be $39 or $19 or $38 for 2 mils. Most of them are getting that homestead, farmstead reduction. And it's really not a big burden you would think on the taxpayers. It's not like a 32% increase that you had in the county before. So I think you gotta build that into everything. I think we've been able to do a lot of things, and I'm gonna go to the next slide now. Absorb that, we can come back to that.
Wait, before you go on, can I ask one question? That-
Yeah.
Say that's been that $37 per
Yeah.
mil. That is over
For
a
2
year.
mils.
Okay, that's over 1 year, 1 year.
But it'll stay on next year, the two, because we'll be up to
Wait,
87.9.
okay, so just so that you know, the school board taxes are levied in the fall.
Yes,
They're levied in the fall, so it would hit all in just your fall property tax statement.
yes, July 1st.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
$37.20, yeah.
Yes, a house with
Hold on.
400,000. Well, and that's part of the other problem in our district. Is because our market.
That's the one I wanted to go back to, the fund balance history. Irma brought this up at the last, I think, buildings and grounds meeting, was it? You wanted to go back, so I took all Wessel's charts. The audit. And I went back to 2010 up through 2024. Okay, so you can see, as Irma said, we were under $1 million in fund balance. Panic mode.
Look at the next year.
Up. And so let's go up to 2019, 2021 was the last. Tell me the tax. Okay. So over that 16-year period, over that period, we only raised mills a little bit over 16 mils to get to that, but that took us from here to there. Now, we still were able to maintain growth, no tax increase. Right to there, almost 10 million, no tax increase, because of the grants, and because of the ESSER's money, because we were able to transfer $2.9 million in 2021, we did 500,000, or 1.8 million. 2021, we did, or 22, 23, we did 500,000, 600,000 in 23, 24, so that's the 2.9 transfer. What did we do with that money? We did a new track, handicap accessible bleachers, the electric project at the RKM middle school, get new switches, new generators, and the generator down here. The football field drainage and recrowning, and a $600,000 match for the baseball project. 16.1 mils right there. So we did things right for the 4 years. It's the extra money we got, the ESSERs, the grants, and everything.
With no tax increase.
No tax increase, didn't cut any programs, built our fund balance, but here's what the tricky part is, ESSERs is gone. He knows where that grant funding is gonna be, and we don't want this thing to snowball. I wanna turn it over to you, what do you think, is that what your thoughts are?
First of all, only the board can levy tax.
Yeah.
We can only give opinions.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So from my history, and it's unfair to compare to Franklin Region, but every year we did something small, half a mil, whatever, because I'm working with a school in Somerset County, called me last week, they did 8 years, I'm proud of it, of 0 mills. Well, now they're filing bankruptcy, they're trying to cut positions. If you look at Chartiers Valley, they've cut 34 teaching positions. Because your healthcare, your fees, everything keeps going up. So I'm an advocate, because of where I worked before, of doing something all the time. So you went through 4 years with zeros. So it's pay me now or pay me later. I hate to see a situation where you get in the situation where we're talking about major cuts to staff. So anyway, we've gone round and round.
Yeah.
If I were CEO of a company and I'd have a board of directors, I'd be saying raise 2 mils. But I don't raise you guys. You guys got a heavy duty discussion.
Well, let's just look, because one of the things that we have to take into account, and I understand what Dr. D is saying, and I understand, and I am
Yeah.
totally in agreement that we need to, be careful. But number one, we're looking at almost a $10 million fund budget right now that has grown. But we have to think about what has happened to our people in the last year, right, in this valley. We got whacked by our commissioners last spring. This fall, we're getting, those of us that live in the township, we're not getting whacked, but we are gonna see, because the township, Ligonier Township increased their property taxes.
Now, I know from Ligonier Township, property increase is like nothing compared to school taxes.
It is, it
I
is,
looked at the chart and
it
it's
is nothing.
like
I get that.
minimal.
But the thing of it is perception is everything.
Yeah.
And whenever the people out there are looking and saying, we just got the snot beat out of us by our county commissioners. And now those of us that live in the township, Ligonier Township, are taking another price hike. I'm not saying that we don't do a price hike, but I am just saying, I think we need to be careful.
I agree. We want to give you the facts. That's what my job is, to give you the facts. But this last handout I want to show you here. This is the millage survey we get from the IU, from all the districts that are in the IU. It's part of our being part of the member, we get this complimentary thing.
Before you
okay.
get that, let me just make one statement.
Okay.
I would like everybody to understand that we as taxpayers pay the 100% price of schools, period. Whether we get it from the state, the federal, or local, we all pay 100% of it. And the reason I say that is everybody pays attention to the local school taxes because it's here and it hits them. But again, you've referred to it many times. Dr. D's referred to it. The state comes in with a lot of stuff and requirements that most of us have no control over at the local level. Now, we have a lot of, but my point being is, people need to understand, they need not only to look at what we do, but they need to look at, unfortunately, what the state does and perhaps federal. To understand all the requirements that have to be done.
Well,
Bottom line is, we pay 100% of it one way or the other.
Yeah.
I just want everybody to understand.
This stand down the road.
There's a good balance, but I want to tell you the other good story about this. Look at this piece here.
Average assessed value.
We're the lowest tax district in the county now, school district wise. I mean, look at last year. Franklin Borough went up 6.5 mils.
Where our average is.
Franklin Regional 3.5 mils, Hemphill 5 mils, Greensburg Salem 2.5 mils. It goes on and on, but we're the lowest now, 85.9 mils.
Eric,
Yes,
I gotta step in here. I'm lost.
Yeah.
I'm looking here at Hempfield.
yeah.
Assessed value, 635.6. Is that their average assessed?
No, that's their
value?
total assessed value, 635 million. That's in millions. Our assessed value is
192.
192 million, yeah. They're 3 times bigger, that's their assessed value as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this is grossed up. Why our mill looks a little bit higher? We don't collect that 100%. We're collecting about 95%. That's why the mill's we raised 1 mill, it's about 181,000. We don't collect it now. It goes to delinquent and we collect it in later years. We did delinquent real estate taxes this year. I know this is it's awful to raise taxes. I've done this. It's my 21st budget. I've raised taxes 4 times in my career. You don't raise taxes to raise taxes. I agree we have a good fund balance. I just want the board to know you got it's hard because you don't want it to snowball. It can go year after year. And if we do get some of these other revenues, it does change. That's great. But we won't know that until after we pass.
So Eric, if I just round some numbers.
Yeah.
From everything I've seen. You're showing our fund balance at close to $10 million.
Yeah.
If the budget goes through the way it's written right now with nothing changing, there's the potential, and I'm rounding numbers, to lose $1 million.
About 900,000, yeah.
Okay, which would bring our fund balance down to
9 million. 9.1.
So this is kind of this is the slush fund emergency money in case you need to do some sort of a quick renovation
Major
on
project, like
something.
we have this money set aside for capital
Right.
projects. If there's an emergency, we have the money there.
So let me ask what I think is easy question. If we needed a millage increase to make sure that the fund balance stays where it's at, what would that millage be?
Well, you'd have to go up to the index, probably to play it safe. You'd have to go up to the three, this amount right here.
You'd have to go the whole way to the 4 mils.
The three. The 3.436 mils will bring you about $630,000. Would still be a little short.
Be $400,000 short.
Yeah, it'd still be a little short. We have, again, we have things that we're gonna talk about. This has everything in there staffing wise that we still need to talk about as well too. Yeah. I know, but that's what I mean. I don't want you to, it's a difficult decision. I know. But you need to know everything that's out there, the past, where we are right now, and what the future could be.
So can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yeah.
So just, I wanna understand Don's comment. So he's saying slush fund. That's not really a slush fund because our operating budget is 1.2 in the negative, right? That's
Well, it's,
extra money that's there in case. That's
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
operating money.
no,
That's a whole
That's your
different
savings
ballgame.
account.
these are, yeah,
Yeah.
these are
That's
one
your
time, like
savings
these,
account.
the operating is always more than one, these are year after year, and you see how they can compound,
And
you know what I mean?
so the budgeting we did over, say, the past 15 years was responsible because we didn't raise and just.
Yeah, it was a good mixture. We were able to
Right.
build a fund balance state, and certainly when you build a fund balance, like if the state doesn't pass its budget, we don't do a tax anticipation that we can
Right.
weather the storm. We can save taxpayers there. We can earn some money now that the interest rates are higher. It's a little bit of everything, but you gotta have that reserve there too. You don't wanna do
No,
it.
okay, I agree. That's why we don't make, I agree.
If I'm trying not to be wishy-washy, but we don't have 100% of the facts in front of us. We don't know certain things. I wish we could, if the state would have their done, this might be a different story if their state budget was done. We might have more revenues that we're not anticipating. And we've seen that over the last couple of years. We've absolutely, I mean, the cyber, 161,000, the cyber is great for this.
But is it possible to get 900, 1,000 or 1,000,000 from the state on the?
No,
Well,
No,
no, that's not,
we're gonna be
no,
short.
he said, yeah,
Okay,
we're gonna be short, but it's only gonna be in 600,000-700,000. If we get what we got, we would be down to 600,000-700,000.
But,
So then, okay,
you go ahead.
no, I'm done.
Okay. Is it possible, and I do not know this question, because I've never heard this asked before. Is it possible to change our fiscal year?
No, that's state
That's
set.
in stone, okay. But I thought, if we could change that by 1 month, we'd have.
they were arguing, they wanted to change the fiscal year. The people were pissed off. So I should have said that. But when this all went on, they wanted to change it to like August 1st, but it would have to be changed, everything. It would be a nightmare. It'd have to be a law that would have to be passed. And it would be a nightmare for school districts to go through this. Because you'd have 10-month reporting and.
Right.
Yes,
Remember one year.
You know.
but there's just a lot of unknown. And
Yeah.
like I said, this is probably, Christie, this is my second hardest budget. My first hardest budget, true hardest, was going to Johnstown. And in the middle of the year, knowing that we're gonna be out of money. And we raised taxes that next year. We got no money because less collections and less people got their taxes reassessed. So there is a fine line. I get it.
Well, sadly, it does come down to politics when it comes to state money, because that's where all that comes into play, right?
Some other good, you'll see on the agenda, we have some, we always do the carpeting and retiling in some buildings. We have, we'll have about 218,000 available for the 41,000, so we still have some money left in capital projects, which is good. A lot of it's earmarked, there's actually 2.175 I'm projecting at the end of the year. It's our $600,000 match, plus we have the grant right now, funds for that, so that's all earmarked for that. But 218,000 will pay for the carpeting, and won't come out of the general fund. We want to try to do that every year, get around $40,000, keep moving into buildings, getting them where they need to be, and upgrading that at least. Because I don't know.
Gary,
There you see a lot of ask questions.
is the
Is he
public
allowed to
allowed
ask
to
a
ask a
question?
question? It's your meeting.
Yeah.
Everybody else is, might as well.
I hope I have the answer.
I think that's yes.
The baseball project. Isn't there another project that's going up, but I haven't seen it on anything?
That would.
That's because we haven't even
that's-
voted on that yet.
No,
So,
that would come out.
So that would be a pending cost out of capital funds, right?
Well, the general fund.
General fund balance.
That 9.9 million there, yes. Yeah.
Slush fund.
That would drop that down some, yeah. but we already anticipated the 600,000 the prior. So being where we were, getting those things extra that 1 year, 23, 24, it stabilized us to make sure we covered that 600,000. Which designated first in the fund balance, which would have took that down, we were able to transfer over and have it set aside, yeah. Because the funding, the extra funding we got from the state, the interest.
I really did like Gary's comment, though, because people look at the local.
Oh, you're right, we pay it off.
We pay it off.
Pay it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, all I'm trying to say is people should be paying attention to the state stuff. Because a lot of people just focus in on the local, which we're accessible, which is good. But I just want them to understand.
All the money's coming from us at the
Yeah, it all
end of the
comes from
day.
us.
Yeah, I mean,
Even those
It's one
grants,
way or the other.
Right.
grants, the loans, everything, they still.
And interest rates on favorable, we talked about refinance bond issue, sometimes you get savings.
Yeah,
Interest rates to refinance bond issue would be a low rate. They're not, they're.
no, we have pretty good rates right now, but we keep checking on it quarterly to make sure it's out there, but the bond market's
Yeah.
it's crazy right now, but we always check if it is. I was able to save a little bit over $1 million when I left Johnstown, that was the last meeting they approved the refinancing, it was great, so there is potential savings on that. We'll keep looking for.
I like what Dr. G says, be positive.
I am,
Well, I mean, it's a good situation. You looked at fund balance history where you had less than $1 million back when Irma was on that board. And now you have $9 million, but you know, if you.
And that was a lot of diligence to
And
get
if you
there.
keep paying your electric bill with your savings account, you know what happens, it catches up with you. So at some point, you got a hard decision to make, and only you can make that decision. We can only provide you information.
That the savings account has been growing.
but we didn't do it the wrong way over the last 4 years, we were fortunate to have the Esters to do it the right way, like I know a lot of people added new positions with Esters, and they had to cut them.
Well,
We didn't do
Yeah,
that,
and they
We
used
used
it,
to do
yeah,
know-
yeah, they used
you
it
know
to
where
get-
I stand.
I know.
Yeah, so I say we keep going with zero, but that's just my opinion. And I hope, and I will say pray because of me. And pray that eventually all this stuff does get straightened out because there are people putting on pressures. Like I said earlier, powers that be. I understand we may have to make changes, but
Yeah, you're right, Gary. It's one thing, the chart, I understand the chart says it's gonna cost you $30. Well, that's 30 on top of the 4,000 you're already paying.
right.
It's not like just $30.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the
It
thing I would
basically
use,
boils down to inflation that's been happening the last 10 years or so.
and for a lot of people in this
I understand
district,
that.
they are really, that the county property tax increase, they're losing their homes over that, you know,
But-
and
There may be
It's
ways
big.
to save money, but we'll talk about some other ways.
Yeah, we're
So we'll
definitely
we'll
have
just,
that, yeah.
this is just all a thought process.
And,
that's
and this is
going on.
what we'll have to present Monday, and then unless there's changes we need to make before Monday, we can run this.
Okay,
Like Irma
so-
said earlier, we do have opportunity.
Yeah, you can pass the May budget, then you can still pass the June budget differently, they don't have to be the same,
Exactly.
exactly.
So the actual fund balance that we're looking at, is that increasing because we're cutting costs or is it increasing because of interest?
Well,
Or is it both?
it's interest,
grants.
it's grants,
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
it's
I
a
know
little
about
bit
the grants.
it's all
but
that.
It's all
It's
that.
not anything that.
Well, and we're watching every penny.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Like, it,
As we have for the past 10 years.
exactly, oh, yeah, you can see the history, oh my
Right,
God, yeah,
yeah.
nothing's
It's
changed,
nothing.
nothing's changed, you can see.
Right.
Eric, what year did you come here?
I came June of 2020, so I wasn't for the 2021 budget, Michelle, that was Michelle's budget, yeah. I was responsible for the 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25, that was my 5th year, 25.
You know, Cindy, I know what you're saying in terms of, you know, people having extra taxes and everything else. But I've also seen what happens when you don't keep up with inflation. And I would like to see a 1 mil tax this year because you saw the chart and based on what your property value is. Yeah, and I know the people that probably have the most difficulty are the ones that their property value is maybe the least. And that would be the one, you know, the $150,000 market value. The increase would be $14. And I know $14 isn't a lot, but I also know when they're going to the store and buying groceries, everything else is going up.
Right.
But I think we owe it to our students and to our taxpayers not to encumber them going down the road as a board.
I
now.
agree with that. I totally agree with that because I totally agree with keeping up on inflation. However, this is what I'm saying. let's look at our back history. We just, last year, we projected a 606,000 down and we came out 250,000 ahead. We're sitting on a 10 million capital funds balance. How do I sell that to these people? How do I sell to them? Okay, it's gonna cost you $15 more on your taxes. Whenever we come out $250,000 ahead last year and we're sitting on a $10 million tax, a $250 million capital funds balance. How do I sell that?
That's projected.
But I'm still telling you though, I am telling you that because I totally understand. The big problem in our district is because we've got this. And we've got, I don't know, what do you say, Eric? Those really, really rich people that are bringing in all that money that are tipping us off the scale are maybe 25%, if the most of our district taxpayers.
I couldn't even tell you.
Right?
I know that the personal income.
Right,
yeah.
but below, right? So when you're talking on the lower end, we're talking, how many free lunch,
Yeah,
50,
45%.
yes, come
Right,
on.
sir.
So we're talking, we're talking the majority of our constituents out there. That's what I'm trying to look out for. And I understand that it's these big guys, it's not gonna hurt them. Even if we go, even if we go the maximum that we're allowed, it's not hurt them. They don't care. They have all that money. But that's only less than 25% of our constituents. We're talking 50% of the other end of our constituents.
Okay, so what happens in 2 years? Because I heard you say the term, you'll raise it in 2 years. So what happens in 2 years when we have to look at this and say, oh my gosh, we have to raise it?
I am not even.
think the public's gonna say that.
I'm not even saying in 2 years, and I think Donnie has made his argument about this, because we have talked to Eric about this several times within the last, I think, 2 years. We just want, and the history plays into it. If we had not had the history of what the county just did, this probably wouldn't even be in a discussion. I'm telling you, people are still in shell shock because of that huge, we not only did the maximum millage increase, but we took on a 3.4, 2.7, 2 point something like that, increase to pay off a bond debt. All right. So that was extra money that they put in. People are still in shock over that. They're still, it's gonna, I'm just saying, let's give them one more year, right? Let's give them one more year to, get over what the county did to them. And then I think Donnie's, idea of 0.5.
I like.
I'm
Yeah,
either thinking like 0.33, 0.5 over 3, 4, 5 years.
I
Okay,
agree, something
that-
small, very
That
small.
that way, that $15 for the $150,000 household, you're looking at throwing $5 or $6 into the pot every year.
So,
That I don't think that's gonna hurt anybody. That's gonna take a little bit away from Eric's Gallagher's iced tea budget. He's gonna have to drink Turner's for a couple of days. That's kind of what my thought is, and I don't know whether or not we're ever gonna see a reform come through Ligonier where the township or the school are gonna get together and say, hey, all you nonprofits that are not paying any money on your land, we're coming to take it.
Yeah, well, they're looking at that now.
Well,
And that's what, and so I don't want to go and put a burden onto the taxpayers. And then find out later that the reform comes through for all the organizations that are listed as nonprofit. And they say, okay, you're gonna have to pay a percentage of your property taxes now. And then we're gonna have people that say, but you already charged us for it up front. And that taxes never go down.
So here's my concern. Good decisions. We're updating our curriculum. We've made a lot of adjustments with staff. We've looked at as many costs as we can, and responsible thing that we needed to do was update our curriculum. It comes to cost.
It does.
And so you're pulling from these savings for all this stuff. And like Eric said, or no, Dr. D said, you don't want to be paying your electric bill with our savings. That's going to just chew it. And there's going to be projects that come up every year. So the more we take away from there, the more we're moving towards the possibility of a district going under. That's not responsible, and I think the taxpayers would be livid if we hit them in a couple of years with a 4 or 5 vote.
Yes, understood.
So think about the show and talk with that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm totally opposed to throwing out a max mill increase. That would be ridiculous.
Where do you think
We also gotta take-
So
We also
I,
gotta take in consideration, we are losing kids.
we are, and so I'm kind of, that's, I'm a math guy, so
I
I'm
know
always
that.
playing the numbers in my head. And yes, we went for a few cycles where we didn't make any changes to curriculum. Now Justin has us on the 5 and 6 and 7 year rotations. We know where those budgets are going to come in the future, projected, okay? And yes, we're catching up now because of the stuff that we're buying, which is part of the reason why the last 4 years didn't go down. If it were me, and I'm only one person on this board, my suggestion would be 1/3 of a mil. Let's see where the budget comes out next year. Let's see what we get back. Let's see where we progress in the future with the nonprofit reorganization of taxes in Ligonier Valley as a whole. And then maybe next year we have to say, you know what? 1/3 wasn't enough. We're going to go to 2/3. And then that basically balances out us at a 50/50 and a half.
Okay, so to
That's my
Gary's-
thought.
Gary's comment about the student reduction, I have a question for Justin. Does your curriculum get based on the number of students in the school?
not sure.
So.
When you order
When
curriculum,
you order curriculum, is the cost the same if we have 100 kids or 50 kids?
No, it's based on the amount of kids.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's based on the number of kids, okay.
Now, obviously, Jen, there's going to be a discount the more kids you
Understand that.
have
Right,
because you're going to pay less per item.
right,
But
but I want to know, is the cost significant when you take kids?
Yeah,
in and
for
out?
books, the cost of a curriculum, a lot of times, especially if you go with a vendor, is it'd be based on the amount of books that you receive, and that's all based on how many kids we get.
Right. Okay, that's just for books. Okay.
All right.
Excuse me, Don, I'm gonna have to leave. Can you take over my meeting, please?
I'm actually going to have to leave
Yeah,
in 8
I am
minutes
as well. I am as well.
I have an 11 o'clock Zoom I have to
Yeah, I
attend with
gotta-
my
I
daughter.
gotta leave
So.
too. I apologize.
Oh, no problem.
So,
Are we
Can-
still able to have an executive session without all these people?
Can we agree on the 3rd? As you suggested?
Well, we.
I mean, I think we have.
We can't, we
we're not-
can't vote,
we
but,
could-
but maybe
we're
what
gonna
we
make
can,
whatever changes,
we can maybe ask Eric to give us a little bit of paperwork for the May 19th meeting that just shows us where we might be if we did a 1/3.
Right, yeah.
Well, give us a comparison. Show us,
Right.
show us a 1/3,
Exactly.
show us a half.
I think we
Right.
need to talk about a couple things that way in executive session.
Well, we're not gonna have enough people to, so, here's, just real quick thoughts. When I came in, I told you I was not gonna just sit here and sign paperwork, I was gonna make changes. And the one change I wish I would have made early on was to have a committee meeting of the whole in the auditorium, and then a voting meeting a week or two later, because wouldn't it be great if we could present all this on May 19th and vote a week later?
Mhm.
Where you can hear from the constituents a little more, their thoughts. Okay, but we're not there, because you're gonna have to vote. And second thing is, the last time I checked, you can't pass a budget on a 4-4 vote. Okay, not to be smart. So at some point, you're probably gonna get into, and I've watched other districts get into, what's a 1/3 mil look like, what's a 1/2 mil look like, what's 1 mil look like, until you get enough people to raise it up the flagpole and pass something. So I think that's what we're gonna have to do with the board. As far as the exec session with personnel, I do have some, again, recommendations. The board will have the final say. I can bring those up again when we leave here today. And then talk with Gary privately, talk with Don privately, call Mary, call Josie, let them know.
So we could.
Or we
have a
could do it,
Closed session to
right.
discuss.
We
and
could.
then
Well,
include
and also I plan to do that on the 19th also.
We can
because-
have a discussion about personnel. I'm concerned, my concern is that's gonna be a big conversation.
Sure.
We won't have enough time
Sure,
to do that.
but we're not going to, you're gonna pass a budget at X number of dollars at X number of millions. And then you can reduce budget in June, you can't raise. So a lot of changes will occur, not all changes, in June. Because the devil's in the details when it comes to personnel. So
And
we
the thing
will
is
have
is
some
that-
time, and I don't like to rush, I never like to rush and say, vote now, I mean, you need time.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
I mean, without having Gary Matta here, I don't know the legality of this. If I say, what are people's general thoughts on a third?
Well, I think we've asked
Straw
them to
poll.
do a projection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's something we're gonna have to vote on the May
You can
19th
do a
meeting.
straw poll, that's allowable.
Well, that could
Well, there's
be,
no formal vote here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also could have us prepare a motion with third if it fails, a motion with zero, a motion with a half.
yeah,
to
and
get-
because we have a work meeting before, or executive meeting before.
Yeah, we might just have to have our executive meeting a little bit longer. We might have to start 4:45, 4:30
Yeah, we could,
instead
I
of-
would rather do that because I can't stay.
Right, and
For-
neither,
for-
I have an 11 o'clock coming up as well, so,
Okay, if I close the meeting?
yes.
Okay,
Good, yeah.
all right, just so everybody knows, we'll close it at, what, 10:37?
Yes. Thank you, Eric, for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
the one question though, just for the agenda, do you want me to